Hey guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please support this podcast by going to talkmurder.com/join and becoming a Taco Supremo. Dorian Corey, a famous drag queen, once said, "I always had hopes of being a big star, but as you get older, you aim a little lower."
And I just say, well, yeah, you still might make an impression. Everybody wants to leave something behind them, some impression, some mark upon the world.
Then you think, you've made a mark on the world.
If you just get through it, and a few people remember your name.
Dorian did become a big star, however, and that mark that she left for the world, or at least the detectives, can be found rotting away in a musty old garment bag.
So huge shout out to everyone who came out for our Columbia show. We got a few Taco Supremos from the show. Heidi, also Oscar, by proxy.
Oh yeah, Oscar is definitely an honorary taco. We need to get him a bandana and send it in her package.
We also need to get our own. Well, she got our shirt already.
Did she?
Yeah, and so did Andrea, who is another official Taco Supremo who has joined us.
Thank you.
And another shout out to a new Taco Supremo, Myra.
Hey, Myra.
Right.
Thanks for joining, guys.
Thanks,
we really
guys.
appreciate all the love and all the support. We had an absolute blast at our live show.
Guys, I'm sorry. I couldn't do the cleanse. I tried the
Jen, we
first day.
started yesterday.
No, we started on Monday.
Jen, you can do things, you
Jen,
know.
what the hell? It was like literally, this is Wednesday.
I understand that, but listen, you have to hear me out. I'm like,
Don's still
That's-
going strong.
Jen, those
I'm
are
proud of you.
excuses, man. I'm sitting here eating Brussels sprouts with mustard on them.
You can
Okay,
you can be,
so don't tell me your excuse because I'm eating Brussels sprouts with mustard. And that's fucking gross.
I love Brussels sprouts. So I know that I disappointed you all, but I'm going to Myrtle Beach this weekend, and I just didn't think that I would be able to follow it in Myrtle Beach. I know that there are possibilities, but like, you know, being in a conference all day is difficult. So especially when you have to like present and not have to.
And these are excuses.
They are excuses.
These are nothing
As
but
long
excuses.
as you know that they are.
I'm not
If
saying.
you're listening out there, do not give her any pity. She does not need it.
I'm not asking for pity. I'm not asking for pity. I'm just being honest with you. And also, I had 2 beers tonight.
What?
Because I'm not doing the cleanse, so I was like, I can have
So
2
you said,
beers.
fuck it.
Pretty much.
Okay, so I didn't give you guys any hint tonight.
Nope. Because we're not, well, Jen's drinking, but
Yep.
John and I are not.
Well, I'm not drinking anymore. I have already.
You've had more than
I-
2 beers, I could tell.
No, I haven't.
I think you guys would really like the story. Sorry I didn't give you a hint.
It's okay.
Honestly, it took me a long time to pick a story.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so ridiculous because there's so many out there. And I have a list. Literally, I have a list of about 400 stories that I've pulled.
Some are just
400?
really long.
Yeah, like
though.
a lot. And I have them categorized like international, oldies, bizarre, like all these lists. And it keeps getting filled up.
It's like a radio station.
It keeps getting filled up every day.
103.3. You know, they got rid of that station back home.
Really?
Yeah, there's no more oldies 103.3. It's now AMP radio.
So tonight we are going to a year when there were no vinyl players. There were only cassettes and eventually CDs.
I hate to tell you, but there were still vinyl players.
What year do you think we're going to? If
You
I
said-
say I think, and I'm not sure, but I think this is the bridge between cassettes and CDs. What year is that? And,
1997.
I'm not really sure if this is true.
1999.
Because I didn't look this part up.
95.
Okay, it's 92. But like I said, I'm not really sure.
Because I remember getting my first CD in the first grade. But
Yeah,
that
the first
doesn't mean-
CD I had was Alan Jackson's Greatest Hits.
I think my first CD.
And then my brother signed me up for the Alan Jackson fan club.
My first CD was In Sync.
Okay, we're going to October 1992. We're going to a very, very nice and elegant apartment.
Ooh.
You want to take a guess
Fancy.
where? Very schmancy.
Manhattan.
Close. we're going
Close because of the status or close because of the location?
the location and status. I mean, the status is really high status. I'm just going to tell you. Okay, it's October 2nd, 1990. Well, October 1992. We're going to a little small, quaint apartment at West 140th Street in Harlem.
Hey, I did pretty good there.
Wait,
Which is
but Harlem is like just a sub-city of Manhattan, isn't it?
This
Is
apartment,
Harlem in Manhattan?
Yeah.
this section of Harlem is actually still rated one of the worst places to live. The most violent subdivisions is where this story takes place.
Actually, can I just retract my statement because I have no idea how the boroughs of New York work. So I don't know if Harlem is actually. I think Harlem may not.
I think it is, but I'm not sure.
October 1992, there was two men. They enter this small little apartment, West 140th Street in Harlem. Now, a woman named Lois Taylor was there. She let the guys in. These guys were going to look for a Halloween costume in this apartment.
What kind
These
of
two
Halloween
guys-
costume?
They actually wanted to go as like Dracula and vampires. Now so it's October, obviously Halloween's coming up. So they go into this apartment to look for costumes. The woman
To look for them?
Yes,
I'm
to look for them
confused.
Like, did
because
she advertise that she had the costumes, or they just were like, let's go to this apartment and see if we can find some Halloween costumes?
no. They knew that she had the costumes in there because now Lois Taylor, the one that let them in, she was the caretaker of the recently passed woman who was a costume designer. Okay, so
For
now
like Broadway?
Well, I'm gonna kind of get into this stuff,
okay,
but
sorry.
anyway, for instance, there was fabric, feathers, headdresses, tailpieces, elaborate gowns, and thrifty facsimiles of exorbitant foreign fashions.
So, like, Elton John lived there?
No, she was just
I'm
a
picturing
costume
something
designer. So-
flashy, though.
I know, like you're saying, like, feathers and all these things. And the first
Yeah,
thing
I'm
so-
thinking
mine
like
is
drag,
Elton
something
John.
you'd find at a drag show.
So it's like,
But that's like West Village, though, I think.
I don't know. She was a costume designer.
Yeah.
What do you mean say? All right. A woman named Jennie Livingston, which later did the documentary on this case. Okay, this little known case. I think we're like the only podcast that has done it. Maybe not. I don't know. She was the producer and documenter. She calls the neighborhood, quote, a quiet neighborhood. And the first shoot we did, after this has taken place, the first shoot we did, there was a gun battle right outside. And there were crew members in the van, and they had to go down to the floor of the van so they wouldn't get caught in the crossfire. That's the neighborhood. So these two men were going to get tailpieces and headdresses in this apartment in Harlem. What could go wrong here, right?
Absolutely nothing.
Now, the woman who had passed away, the costume designer, had, quote, a considerable amount of personal effects, and her boyfriend's personal effects, and her boyfriend's brother also lived there at one point. So all their things were there.
Can I ask how this costume designer died, or is that irrelevant to the story? Or is that relevant? Was she old? Like, I was picturing at first an old lady, but now you're talking about like her boyfriend and stuff like that.
Old people can have boyfriends.
I know, but I'm picturing a different storyline now.
Didn't like one of your old roommates have gentleman callers who was older?
No.
Oh, she was just a belly dancer?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay.
Well, she probably had gentleman collars, but that doesn't mean she brought them back here like other roommates.
she didn't.
Now, it was also a hoarding situation in the small apartment. One of the police sergeants said, quote, you could lose a small child in there.
Oh. Like Filene's basement? I got lost in a Filene's basement when I was younger. But it turns out I went to the desk and I was like, I'm lost. And so they called my mom, and my mom came up and she was like, I was literally standing right behind you. And I was like, you definitely were
Well, then
not.
how did you make it up to the desk?
Exactly.
to
That's
call?
what I'm saying.
Exactly.
All right, now keep it in mind, there's this very small apartment, but it had this huge, huge closet space. Now, I mean, she's a designer, so she's got to hang up all of her stuff.
It may have just been an extra room that she turned
extra
into a
room
closet.
turned into a huge closet. I mean, yeah, it was. That's a good point because the one of the papers
no closet
I read,
space in New York City.
yeah, one of the papers I read said it was the size of a small bedroom. So I guess that makes sense. Okay, they're going through and looking through thousands of clothing, gowns, all kinds of stuff. Okay, and they find in the corner there's this garment bag, this large musty garment bag. If you want to read this, Nicole.
Ooh, musty.
One of those old-time cloth bags that you put suits in and folded over. It was dark blue with checks on it. One of those old-time bags.
These two men go over to the bag.
Oh, is there a body in the bag?
Y'all know what's a body in a bag. What else is going to be in the in the bag?
I don't know.
Clothes?
Suits?
Boas? I don't know.
Boas, okay.
Animals?
Taylor tried to pick it up, but was unable to. And I couldn't, because I'm only 135 pounds. And I went to lift the bag, and I couldn't, because I knew Dorian had some heavy, heavy stuff up there in that closet. And I just said, honey, well, just go on and cut the bag. You know what I'm saying? And he cut the bag, and he says, this is a lot of plastic here. So I say, maybe it's one of her beaded gowns.
You got to read it in your New York accent.
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Jen. Read it. All right, so Dorian is the woman that died.
Honey, well, just go on and cut the bag. You know what I'm saying? And he cut the bag. And he says, this is a lot of plastic here. So I said, maybe it's one of her beaded gowns. Because, she got some tremendous beaded gowns. I don't know what the hell was in there. So then he stuck it, and then he cut the thing, and he says, there's a scent. I said, I don't know. Is there a dead dog or what? And I said, dead dog. And I ran like hell.
That was very good.
Jen is also throwing up gang signs as she reads
she's
this.
throwing up gang signs. What was that about? Was that West Side? I saw this.
West Side?
She's just getting into character here. The suitcase was so heavy and overstuffed that Lois didn't even try to find the zipper. She just picked up some scissors and told one of the customers,
Cut it!
As soon as he did, a horrible stink came out of the dusty fabric bag.
That's when we called the police.
Lois explained.
Because, honey, I wasn't chancing it. Did you see how the body was wrapped? No, child, she said. After the cops came...
The cops came? What? Holy shit.
After the cops came, I didn't go back there. You look at something like that, honey, that's something you won't get over for the rest of your life.
All right.
Better believe, child.
So what was that, a dead dog? Is this dead dogs? Oh,
No.
That's awful.
So sad.
That is so sad. Now, it said there was a lot of plastic in there. Nicole, can you read this?
Inside, they discovered the mummified body of a man, bound up and wrapped in plastic, folded into the fetal position with a bullet hole in his head.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay, so the woman that owns this apartment has died a few months before, and no one knew this body was in the bag. And what does it say there?
Mummified.
Mummified.
So he was there for a long time.
Mummified, okay. How long do you think he was there for?
50 years.
The cops initially told reporters that the body had been in the bag from anywhere from 7 months to 20 years.
What the hell?
But that all changed when it was put around 15 years by the coroner. He actually dated it around 15 years. Now, I'm going to tell you how he did it. It's actually brilliant how he dated the body. But we'll get to that in a
I
second.
just had the image of how in a tree you can tell how old a tree is by
the
the
rings.
rings.
Yeah.
How do you determine that from a human? Do you cut
Well,
the...
I mean, I'll tell you in a minute. It's really clever. All right. But to put things in perspective, the reason why this case isn't very, very famous is because within 15 years of that mummy being in that suitcase in New York alone, within a 15-year period, there was 40,000 homicides.
What?
Damn.
That's ridiculous.
When did I say this was? What year?
92.
So the death most likely occurred in 1968.
What?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wait, 15 years is not...
Well, it's a little over 15 years. It's 18 or whatever. Now,
Wait, no, that
doesn't
math's...
add up.
or whatever the fuck it is.
70s.
I don't know what it is. 1968 to 92. That's like 22 years. What are you talking about? 18 years. I don't know.
24.
I don't know math. All right. Anyway, it's been in there over 20 years. The autopsy was done by a Raul Figueroa. Now, he's actually the licensed mortician. All right. If you want to read this, Nicole, it's not graphic at all. AKA, it's graphic.
So I cut the fingers below the second joint. Then it took me several days to work on it because technically, even though it's mummified, he was in a sort of mummified state, but in a soupy sort of mummified state.
Gross.
What does that mean?
Can I just say, all right, so I'm sorry, but like, so when the first day, I did the fast the first whole day, and I have to say all I ate were blueberries and tomatoes and carrots. And every time I was eating a carrot, I almost couldn't eat it because I always remembered that the carrot is the same consistency of a finger, and it's ruined carrots for me.
You've ruined carrots for me too.
It's awful.
You've ruined it for everyone on this podcast now.
Well, I'm sorry, but you need to know.
You know what? You should buy carrot chips instead. I think that will help you.
Maybe.
Like they make them.
Cooked carrots don't bother me. Just raw carrots.
Yeah, you should get them in like they sell them at Whole Foods anyway, or Harris Teeter.
No, they had them at Harris
Those
Teeter.
things you put on salads, right?
Yeah, like the little ridges. They look like potato chips, except they're carrots.
Like those.
You don't?
No,
I
I hate
those
those damn things. Where's the ridges come from? Tell me that. Why are there ridges?
Well,
It's
at
the
least
grater.
they don't look like fingers, and they don't have the same
But they
consistency.
don't taste good. You know, if you eat a lot of carrots, you'll turn orange.
Yeah, I ate almost a whole bag of carrots.
And you were orange?
No, I didn't turn orange.
You know, also, NASA gives it to their astronauts to improve eyesight.
Yeah, a lot of vitamin A, but I heard it's
And
bad for you though. Like there's like something in the carrots that if you eat a lot of them, they're bad for you.
Sugar?
No, sugar and carrots?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Carrots
they do
are
have one of the highest sugar contents of the vegetables.
All right, let's go.
That's why I've kind of felt like maybe I shouldn't be eating all these carrots.
So what's a soupy mummified state?
Like beef stew.
But how is it mummified? Like,
Okay,
do you
alright.
just like cuts it open and it's like kind of gushy inside?
No. So you know what a mummy is, right? It's like all
Yeah.
dried, like with
Like Elmer McCurdy.
the athletic tape wrapped around his whole
Yeah.
body. Okay, so the
athletic
plastic
tape.
prevented this loss of moisture because a mummy is dried the fuck. The mummy is completely dried out. There's no moisture in the mummy. But this mummy, it was covered in heavy plastic. When you read, the guy cut it open and then all he could feel was plastic. So that plastic actually prevented the loss of moisture necessary for true mummification. And the bodily fluid settled instead of evaporating. So there you go. So if you were to wrap a mummy, if the ancient Egyptians used plastic to wrap a mummy instead of a catacomb or whatever, they would be soupy too. And then they could eat it or whatever.
Figueroa said that the body was halfway between mummified and decomposed. When you have all this wrapping, no air is getting to it, he explained, but it is still losing liquid out of its body. So the body sort of floats in its own soup. The skin was in very bad shape. It was like very old fabric. If you touch it, it's going to fall apart.
It's like floating. The body is floating in its own soup. That's what it said. It's like beef stew, yeah, but it's the beef chunks floating around in there.
Oh man,
But it's like
because the stew beef is literally my favorite.
Because like
part
there's
of
no
beef stew.
bones or structure to it at this point. So like if
And you
you
know
were
what?
to squeeze it, how did they even get it
So
like,
it's like
out of the bag and stuff?
They probably just like one of those Go-Gurts.
The Go-Gurts are like the cake decorating. Like
Yeah,
It's like
yeah.
a Go-Gurt. They just
Yeah.
squeeze it.
Go-Gurt is underrated. I like Go-Gurt.
So enough gruesome stuff. Let's talk about
I have a feeling you're lying, but go on.
let's talk about who this guy is, shall we? Here, read this.
So did the
Nicole.
dead lady kill him?
Well, read this. You'll find out.
There was all this muck, many pounds of muck. You have to clean it off, but you got to do it soft because you don't want to destroy it. It's a painstaking sort of process. The minute it gets destroyed, you do the wrong thing. It's gone forever. And then you got nothing to work with.
Ew, oh my gosh. When I hear muck, I think of like duck sand
Holy shit.
or pluff mud as they
So-
call it down here.
If they freaking squeeze this guy out like a Go-Gurt.
Ew, no, not Go-Gurt. Please don't ruin Go-Gurt for me. It's all I have left.
Can you just imagine? Because it's not a suitcase.
Go-Gurt in my
like what we
eyebrows. It's
see.
all I have left.
You know, in all these other stories, it's like a suitcase. This is a garment bag. You could like bear hug it and squeeze it, and then it just slimes
I
out
know.
the
That's
bottom.
why I was like, how did they transport this thing? You know, they had to be really careful.
In a thermos.
And like my mini crock pot that I have,
They're like keeping it
like
warm.
carry it to work.
Keeping it
gross.
the parts warm.
All
So
right.
did it have? So it was like almost like structurally intact from the outside, but it was all soupy inside.
Yeah, soup. I guess there's no pictures of it, but
Damn,
enough of that
that's
shit.
too
Let's
bad.
move on.
No, I don't want to see body soup.
I do.
Let's move on.
So I was working on secondary skin, the lower one beneath what you see. Secondary skin slippage. You've seen a floater come out of the water. You've seen the hand like a glove come off. That's the slippage. The secondary skin. It's not as pronounced as your regular skin. It's a twin of what you might lose in a sunburn or regular wear and tear.
It's
Oh my
like
God, it's like those foot peels.
No, it's like
Yeah.
No, okay. So it's like the silver skin when you're butchering like a slab of beef or what's that other thing? Pork. Like when you're cutting the silver skin off.
All right, who is this guy? Who is in this
Elmer
Go-Gurt?
McCurdy.
An ex-lover.
This Go-Gurt container right here. Who is in this Go-Gurt
An
container?
ex-lover of the costume lady.
Gianni Versace.
All right, the body is a black male, 5'10",
Liberace.
140 pounds, wearing blue and white boxer shorts. Okay, his real name is Robert Wells.
It's amazing they were able to identify him.
They were able to identify him
Was he
because
wearing
he
his ID?
painstakingly got all 10 of his fingerprints. And okay, so let's just skip
From the
forward.
soup?
Yes, you can read this. This is pretty insane in the membrane.
Insane. It got no brains.
So I had to come up with something to try to be able to deal with the fingers because of the skin. We all have microorganisms that either were near the body when he was enclosed or on the body itself. They will eat through the skin, leaving these little micro holes that you can't really see, but where you can't inject anything because it's going to leak out. Very slowly it leaks out. So there's not much you can do. If you try to put ink on that, it will not adhere to the skin. It was a problem. And I ended up, and I can't give away all the secrets because, well, it's beneficial to us to keep it more or less secret. What is this guy talking about?
I don't know anymore.
It's a tricks of the trade from a mortician.
I know, but why wouldn't he share it? Anyway, but I worked out something and I was able to close these holes. Then drying, which is commonly known with acetone and a variety of other things, drying the skin and then using a little bit of heat. You might have to soften it, but it was special liquids to soften it. And I was able to secure the print.
Yeah. So this guy was...
I don't even know what you just said. It was like a lot of things that were like making me block out and like, this sounds disgusting.
Okay, this guy was born in 1938 in December, and because they found the fingerprints, so, well, they got his fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean?
He was in
Nothing,
prison.
right? Unless he was in prison at one point. And he was actually arrested in the Bronx in 1963.
Don't be fooled by the rocks that I got.
You know, Neil deGrasse Tyson's from the Bronx.
It was J-Lo. She's Jenny from the block.
Yeah, but we didn't just come from a J-Lo concert. We just came from a Neil deGrasse Tyson concert.
No, but she's the only reason I'll be watching the Super Bowl this
Well,
year.
no one cares about her. So, the sister was located in Fairmount, North Carolina. Literally the most cow-ridden, tobacco-smoking town. I mean, it's worse than Gilbert. Literally, Fairmount, North Carolina. It's like, why is this guy in a garment bag in the middle of Harlem, and he grew up on a farm?
Did he get tied up with the wrong kind of farmers?
Okay. His real name was Robert Worley. Okay.
Ooh,
now
that's
he
a
was going
Southern
by an
name.
alias. His, like I said before, his alias was Robert Wells.
See, when you said Robert Wells, I thought, oh, he must be wealthy. But then when you said Orley, I'm like, oh, he sounds like a Worley. He sounds like a farmer. Not to say that farmers can't be wealthy, but he just sounds like, just sounds so different.
He grew up, he was the youngest of 7 in his household. His father took care of the ice plant for Fairmount, North Carolina, which, what the fuck is an ice plant?
It's a plant that one doesn't take care of and leaves out in the cold. Like
Thank
me.
you, Jen. So, Robert, which a lot of people called him Bobby. So when you read something, it'll say Bobby. Robert was the youngest, and his brother hadn't seen him since 1968. Now, this is one of the techniques used, not the creme de la creme, but they know he wasn't killed before 1968 because his brother seen him. He was actually living in his brother's apartment in Harlem. Okay. Then he vanishes in 1968. But, all right, let me talk a little bit about this guy. This is what his brother said.
After about 3 months, Bobby Worley disappeared. He got attracted to a woman who lived next door, Fred Worley said. They had a run-in, and he roughed up one of her kids a little bit, a boy about 7. She said, "I'm going to call the police." When he heard the word police, he took off. That was the last I saw him.
This guy graduated from Rosenwald High School in 1957 in Fairfield, North Carolina. He actually played in a band, and he was a very talented musician. He had excellent grades and excellent opportunities laid out in front of him. Literally. I mean, his father worked in an ice plant, but he was like the chemical engineer in the ice plant.
Like dry ice?
I couldn't tell. It was an ice plant. I don't know what the fuck they do there. So here's my question. How did this guy, this farmer's boy from Fairfield, North Carolina, end up in a garment bag in Harlem? That is what was going through my mind. I was like, I knew the overview of the story, which I'll tell you guys, but like, it still doesn't explain how he traveled all the way up there and got in that garment bag.
Well, maybe he was in the garment bag before he was in Harlem. Like Elmer McCurdy.
No, because his brother, he was living in Harlem with his brother. All right.
Oh.
Well, a lot of people would go to the Big Apple to chase their dreams, so maybe he was one of them. She said her fondest memories were when he would talk about different things that might affect him reaching his goal. Bobby was spirited, she said, rambunctious and driven. And was definitely not a mama's boy, although my mother would always help him get what he wanted. He was an assiduous worker and had jobs in the tobacco warehouses and as a veterinarian's assistant.
The woman that died, okay, who wants to see her? Do you think she has anything to do with it?
Yes.
Okay. This is her.
In a sense, so am I. But a very much different quantity.
That's Dorian.
No magazine's going to run up the cover.
That's her right there.
That's Dorian?
Yeah.
She was a drag queen.
Yeah.
But it's still a fame. It's a small fame. But you absorb it, you take it. And you like it. You like the adulation, the applause, the people cheering you on, the winning. It's like a physical high. It's a good high. It's an addictive high, like all highs in the long run turn out to be, but it's a high that won't hurt you. If everybody went to balls and did less drugs, it'd be a fun world, wouldn't it? I'm dressing, of course, to go do a show.
Okay, so that is Dorian Corey. Now, there's not any books, and this story didn't even it made like 3 newspapers. Okay, and it's like one of the craziest stories you'll hear. The 2 big articles, one was done by the New York Times, is called The Drag Queen and the Mummy in Her Closet.
Ooh.
Okay, and the other one's...
That's the title for the episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
and the other one's
perfect.
called The Drag Queen and Her Mummy. Okay, so
Either
that
works.
So Dorian is a male. So the police actually found thousands and thousands of photos of Dorian and her drag and all of her friends. And there was only one photo in the apartment of the victim, Worley, Bobby, of the victim, Bobby, and it was on a Polaroid.
The only known picture of the man found in her apartment is a Polaroid, which has the grisly universality of a memento mori and the clinical circumscription of unique misfortune. The body is set against a black background, posed in half profile from the chest up, hunched over as if to listen closely. The complexion is purple and yellow. The nose and ears are nibs of cartilage, and the slight overbite is exaggerated by the loss of flesh. Oh, so she took the picture when after he was dead?
Mm-hmm.
Ew.
All right. So here's how the body was dated. Okay. We know it wasn't before 1968. We know that. Okay. So it had to be somewhere between 1968 and 1992. There were a few telltale signs. Number one, when they pulled the body out of the Go-Gurt container, okay, a flip-top beer, the little tabs that you flip up on the beer fell out. And those were only used during this short period. And it's not the ones you're thinking of. I'm going to show you what they are right now. Okay, this is them right here. These.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So you see these. You actually flip it up and then pull it back.
Hi, neighbor.
What?
Narragansett. That's the slogan of the beer. It's from Narragansett, Rhode Island.
Oh.
This is the one that he had. So I'm showing him a picture right here. Now, these were only used between 1965 and 1975. Okay. So this is most likely the one right there. And there was like two of them that fell out of his pocket or that were on his person, right? And also, another way he dated the body is this.
The doctor put that it could have been dead 1 to 15 years, so as not to commit himself once we had all the proof. Figueroa said, but given the fact that the brother hadn't seen him since the late 60s, plus the fact that Naugahyde was popular in the 70s, plus the rings, it was obvious.
Now, Naugahyde is the plastic he was wrapped in.
Okay,
so that's the type of plastic, and that was only used during the 70s. So with the flip beer top, okay, and the Naugahyde, the wrapping, they could date it to about 70, which 68, all right?
Okay.
And then once they confirmed by the fingerprints who it was, they could kind of make a guesstimation. It was around 1968 to like maybe 70.
Okay.
When this happened. Okay, before we go any further, I want to tell you about an amazing documentary that was shot in the 1990s. I think it was like 91. Is excellent. I watched it this morning. It's called Paris is Burning. Okay.
I've heard of that.
Now, if you want to know, so what do you think about when you think of drag queens?
RuPaul.
Well, yeah.
Drag Race. Brunches.
I think of drag
Brunches?
Yeah.
Okay, that is obviously not what the drag scene was in New York in the
Clubs.
late 80s.
Okay, what's that club? The place Studio 54. No, they didn't do drag queens there. That was drugs.
I'm going to put the documentary on Talk Murder. It's excellent, and I learned a lot, but it's not just like, men wearing women's clothes.
It's like crossing into the Looking Glass in Wonderland. You go in there and you feel 100% right as being gay.
And
that's
not what it's like in the world.
It's not what it's like in the world. It's not what it's like in the world. You know, it should be like that in the world.
The society, they going to a football game, basketball, that's their entertainment. Yeah. You know, a ball is ours. We prepare for a ball. We may spend more time preparing for a ball than anybody would spend preparing for anything else.
Exactly.
You know, ball is like our world, you know.
Balls to us is as close to reality as we're going to get to all of that fame and fortune and stardom and spotlights.
Okay, so that's a little bit of Paris is Burning. It talks about the drag queens, and they're talking about this ball. So this elaborate ball that they all go to, and they all pretty much make their own clothing.
Yeah, it's like a performance. It's like their promenade kind of.
But is this a particular event instead of it being like just a weekly show?
There's different categories. All right, and the categories spawn from the society around them. For instance, they have a girl going to school category. They have the executive realness category. They have town and country. They have butch queens first time in drag at a ball.
Those balls are more or less like our fantasy of being a superstar, like the Oscars or whatever, or being on a runway as a model. A lot of those kids that are in the balls, they don't have two of nothing. Some of them don't even eat. They come to balls starving, and they sleep in under 21, or they sleep on the pier, or wherever. They don't have a home to go to, but they'll go out and they'll steal something and get dressed up and come to a ball for that one night and live the fantasy.
I can't really describe it, but it's like for one night, you can be anything that you want to be.
You can be
know what I'm
who
saying?
you want to be. You have this alternate persona that you let shine out.
In real life, you can't get a job as an executive unless you have the educational background and the opportunity. Now, the fact that you are not an executive is
That's
merely
Dorian.
because of the
I was
social
gonna
standing
ask,
of
yeah.
life. That is just pure thing. Black people have a hard time getting anywhere. And those that do are usually straight. In a ballroom, you can be anything you want. You're not really an executive, but you're looking like an executive. And therefore, you're showing the straight world that I can be an executive. If I had the opportunity, I could be one, because I can look like one. And that is like a fulfillment. Your people.
You know, it's really funny. One of the quotes she said, there's like a whole list of really cool quotes she said, but one of them was something like, wealth doesn't mean labels, you know, like, you know,
Calvin Klein,
Calvin, all those
Dior.
big Dior or whatever the fuck, because labels can be gotten by a shoplifter. A shoplifter could steal a fucking label. So labels don't define, you know.
Yeah, that's
You know what I'm
interesting.
saying? It's an interesting point.
Model! The category is Butch Queen first time in drags at a ball.
You know what I mean.
You know what Paris means.
Exactly. Butch Queen.
Butch Queen.
Butch Queen.
Butch Queen.
First time in drags at a ball. That's what I want up in here.
If you go down and read some of these comments, if you want to read some of these comments, this is from the movie, the Paris is Burning from 1990.
They looked far better and were more stylish than the wealthiest white Americans, not to mention they were enormously articulate and artistically gifted. They were alive.
Here, read this one.
I cried listening to these young, beautiful people talking about their dreams of what we would all deem as just a normal life, as if it were so unattainable, like they were reaching for fairy tales. Their innocence finding and creating a space for themselves on the fringes of society, and yet still knew how to smile and still gaze out into the clouds of wonderment with sparkles in their eyes when asked about their dreams.
She also taught, all right, the documentary also schools you up on terminology. Like, for instance, I thought the word shade, like throwing shade, is like something the millennials invented. But no, it came from the drag queens.
Did it mean the same thing?
Yeah, well,
Yeah,
basically. So there was, there's two different verbiages, if you will, reading and shade, throwing shade, and then there's just let her explain it.
Oh, yes, it's motherfucking paint, girl. She wears more makeup than my mother does.
Then reading became a developed form where it became shade. Shade is, I don't tell you you're ugly, but I don't have to tell you because you know you're ugly.
She's a boss, man.
Well, she's also a murderer.
So Dorian Corey is basically the oldest drag queen in this time period, right? So she is like almost the mother. And how the drag society worked back then is you'd have these different categories, right? Like I showed you. Then you would have these little houses, not like a physical house, but like, let's say you and me like to dress like, I don't know, Marilyn Monroe or whatever. So we're going to be in the same unit as you will. And we're going to be, you know, competing together.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
For who's the best Marilyn
Yeah, and they
Monroe.
actually give trophies out and everything.
Yeah.
So she was like the mother of one of the she was the mother of the Corey house.
Okay.
Yeah, so she was the you know, the
house mother.
the house mother. Basically, all these new kids will come in. They don't really know what they're doing, so she'll help them. Okay, but not everyone believed that this was a great thing. This is from a African-American scholar right here.
African-American scholar Bell Hooks calls the film exploitative, and the immediate prospect of poor black men who want to be wealthy and famous, white women suggest at least a subculture of acute maladjustment.
Okay, so a little more about Dorian, right quick, the killer. She studied at the Parsons School of Design. She ran a successful business as a dress and costume maker. So she would make these costumes. Here's one of hers right here. Now, this is a golden cape that one time, she wore this thing one time, and it covered the entire ballroom floor.
Whoa.
So that's the picture of it. So they would make these elaborate designs and costumes. I mean, she doesn't have money. Like these kids you see, they don't have money. They're making this shit themselves.
Right.
And that's why that one comment on YouTube was like, they dress and walk more elegantly than wealthy, people do. Because they're like putting in the work. You know what I'm saying? It's like it's passion. It's pretty cool, And I don't know if the drag is like that nowadays, but Jennie Livingston, the one that wrote the report about this, about Dorian, said they used to be good friends, and quote, "We got to be friends, and I'd go up to her place and play Scrabble, which was something she liked quite a bit. She always had a TV set or two going on. She was always one of the more entertaining people I've met. She was great to hang out with." She was also an exceptional graphic designer, and one friend actually said, quote, "Dorian could paint her ass off." Now, she actually traveled for several years. Obviously, her name isn't Dorian. I'm going to tell you what her name is in a second. But she traveled all over the country with a drag show when she first started called the Pearl Box Review. And at that, she got her first infamy, become famous, when she danced with a boa constrictor.
Oh, geez.
And that would bite her on stage, on the ballroom floor. Quote, "Affectionately, she was bleeding, but it was part of the act."
That's going to be a no from me, dog.
And I didn't go into this, but this is where the term legend really comes from. Because if you're legendary in the drag society in this time period, it's like you've made it. You know what I'm saying? And it's so cool. The really cool thing about it is you made it doesn't mean you're a millionaire or whatever. You just, you got the respect of the people you care about, which is the other people, the very, very, very few people that are doing these balls. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's really kind of interesting. Now, Dorian Corey was originally also born on a farm outside of Buffalo, New York. Her name was Frederick, because she was a man, Frederick Legg, Legg. She grew up on a farm, and then she started noticing, she wasn't like everyone else. Just like a lot of these people in this documentary said the same thing. It was a young age, and I started noticing that I was different, or I was, a man in a woman's body and stuff like that. Like they've always said this stuff. So she runs away and she breaks contact with her family. Now,
can I just interject real quick? But I think if I'm correct, just because you perform drag doesn't necessarily mean that you're transgender. Some people are not.
Yeah, she had a penis.
You could be transgender and still have a penis, but what I'm saying is you don't necessarily have to be transgender in order to do drag. Or you don't even have to be gay to do drag.
Now, she lived with a man named Leon, and for the past 11 years, now she died, 3 months before they found this mummy. Okay. Now, Leon was a 35-year-old employee of a trophy shop. Now, when she died, she was 56.
How did she die?
She died from AIDS. Yeah. So remember I told you when the two men went to her apartment, Lois Taylor was there. She was the caretaker. So the last few months of her life, Lois took care of her. And basically, she knew she was going to die, and she was basically dying.
That's awful.
So she died from AIDS. And then what happened is before she died, she told Lois that she could take these costumes and sell them or do whatever she needs and keep the drag scene going. Because, she was in Harlem, and not only Harlem, but probably all around Manhattan or wherever. She was the person to go to if you wanted a costume. She could make these.
I'm surprised she didn't think about the fact that there was a body in her closet when she said this, though.
What do you mean?
Don't you think if you knew, it's not like she didn't know that her death was coming in a way. Shouldn't you be all right, can somebody throw away this bag for me? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because otherwise, somebody gonna go through that shit when you die.
One passage
she had the skeletons in her closet.
Yeah.
One thing I read was, it's one thing to be in this time period in Harlem, an African American with a dead body in your apartment. And it's a completely different thing to be a drag queen with a dead body in your apartment. You know what I'm saying? Like, talk about no respect at all.
Right.
You think the cops give two shits about these drag queens? Hell no, man. Okay, so this guy named Leon, so he was 35 and he was an employee of a trophy shop, right? The same trophy shop that provided the trophies for these drag competitions. Because if you watch the documentary, they give a lot of trophies out for these balls, like a lot. I mean, they got trophies for, you know, the executive dresses, the whatever.
So each category had a contest,
category.
and they had to provide a trophy.
Yeah, so, but one of the friends says, quote, they were an unlikely couple, an odd match, but they were together, and there was a home there and some comfort there. Now, this isn't the guy in the Go-Gurt Cup, all right? This is the guy she was living with. You remember I said her boyfriend lived there with all his stuff.
Right.
And his brother.
Is Leon the other guy's brother?
No, Leon was her boyfriend.
Right.
No, I understand. No, Leon had a brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but not the guy in the Go-Gurt Cup.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tube. The correct term for Go-Gurt is tube.
Y'all should watch this documentary. It's actually really good. It's really entertaining.
Yeah, it's on my watch list, actually.
And it's like, I mean, you feel really good for these people because they don't have shit.
Right.
Most of them, and not only that, not only do they not have anything, but you got to understand, they grew up all over America and they knew that they were gay or they knew that they were different and their family didn't really accept them. So not only do they not have anything, but they don't have any family. Like, real family.
Right.
So these people are the real family. So it's kind of like, you feel good for them because they're doing something they're really passionate about.
And they feel like they have their own community, which is great. Like they feel like they're part of something.
And it's like the amount of time look at these costumes, man. I mean, how long do you think it took her to make that damn thing?
Oh, a long time.
Holy shit.
Yeah. Did I ever tell you guys a story about the time one of my friends and I went to Dudley's and like all these girls were following me around? I was totally oblivious because I was just like there dancing. And I had
Did you know it was a gay bar?
Yeah, I knew it was a gay bar because my friend that I went with is gay, but like But I was totally oblivious. They were like, and I kept looking. I was like, these same girls were like following me around, and I was like, oh, all right, whatever, like. And he's having his old fun time, and it was fun. I like to go to the gay bars. They're fun.
All right, this is one of her friends.
I moved in with Dorian before my parents moved out of the city, he said. She always helped me out when I was down and out, when I needed car fare to get to work and all. I love Dorian very much.
Not long before the release of Paris is Burning, the thing we were watching a little bit of, she slipped into a coma. This was August of 1993. She slipped into a coma and she died. All right.
Oh.
So was the victim also in the drag world and that's how they got connected?
I'm gonna talk a little bit about the victim here in a second.
Okay. Basically, I never really got close with Dorian until 1988 after my mother passed, she explained. Honey, when you lose your mother, that's a great loss. Dorian, she stuck with me. When she got diagnosed, child, I couldn't walk away from her. Because if I did that, God wouldn't have blessed me. Said Dorian, whatever it is, we'll stick it out.
Here, Jen, you can read the next one. Just remember, the person who is saying this, her name is Pepper LaBeija. Which is great.
Child, that's what I don't understand. I used to be in her basement apartment on St. Nicholas. She lived there before she moved to 140th Street. Honey, it was damp and dank, and I never smelt nobody. I have been in buildings where I smelt dead bodies, and I never smelt it. The detective asked me about Miss Lois. I heard tales about her, honey. Could it possibly be she did it? But I thought
I saw a putty cat.
But I thought about it. Where would Miss Lois keep a body for 15 years?
Okay.
In her closet.
Everyone would come up to the apartment all day long. I mean, you read that one quote. They would play Scrabble. Okay?
And nobody could smell it.
No one could smell it. You know, it's because the stuff it was wrapped in, I guess. And that soupy Go-Gurt container, no one could smell it. It's fucking crazy.
Gross.
Go-Gurt tube.
You know what I'm saying? It's nuts. I was even reading one paper where a friend said her German Shepherd would go there and visit all the time, and he didn't even smell it.
I love German Shepherds.
You know, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Now, who is this guy to her? That's what we need to ask. And how did he get there? Now, no one knows for sure. There's only two people that know, and they're both dead. Okay, one of them is in the Go-Gurt cup, and the other one is she's dead from AIDS. All right, someone that knew the victim said that him and Dorian were lovers, and quote, he was a shady guy, and he used to beat her up.
Oh.
Now read this. This is from one of Dorian's friends.
God only knows what he did. Dorian never mentioned a word to me. If she did do it, he had to push her, said Lois Taylor. The whole thing is, said Jesse, Dorian was not a violent person, but, excuse my expression, she was not going to be fucked with either.
The victim, Bobby, his brother, Fred, also said, quote, he used to drink vodka straight from the bottle.
Ooh.
It was an everyday thing. So if they were dating, then it probably could have been a violent confrontation.
Yeah, well, they must have been drinking Nipatati vodka, because that's the only vodka I could drink straight from the container.
That's right. At my recollection, Bobby was a good person, but he got involved with girls. I don't know. While he was in high school, I was in college. Women seemed to be, he just loved girls.
Oh, so maybe Dorian was Dorian a lady of the night in that Robert got involved with?
Maybe. There, a lot of the drag queens on this documentary are also prostitutes because that they got to pay, or they got to eat somehow, right? So maybe that was it.
Yeah.
But honestly, as far as information, there's none on this.
On how they were connected.
On how they were connected. I mean, a friend may have seen them together and stuff like that, but,
So was the...
Number one, there's not really...
So we don't even know if Bobby was a drag queen himself.
I don't think he was a drag queen, but his brother was asked if he dated transvestites, and he said yes, he actually knew for a fact that he was dating a transgendered person. So, but honestly, as far as the details, like I said, no, there was only 3 newspapers that covered it, and it was literally mummy found in drag queen's closet, And it's not like the police had an incentive to investigate this. I mean, 40,000 homicides in 15 years, and you want to try to find out how a dead drag queen killed a man, or if she did at all, or, what I'm saying? Because they may have not even been linked together.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah, it totally could have been someone else's garment bag.
She moved into that apartment 5 years before. So she would have had to take that garment bag with her. So they were saying, well, maybe it was already there,
But if there's some sort of connection with them, that's hard to believe.
Yeah, I know, but no one knows for a fact if there was a connection. It's like all hearsay. I mean, you're asking friends and friends.
People knew him, knew her.
Yeah, but I
guess it comes down to, was the garment bag Dorian's style? Would that be something that Dorian would carry around? Good
point.
I'm not trying to make light of it. I'm like, would that be something that
she would buy?
Yeah.
I mean, but would you move into an apartment and there's a garment bag and you're just going to leave it there?
And not throw it out? Yeah,
it's kind of ridiculous. And another thing is,
I think it's hers.
Why didn't she throw it out? If she did kill him, why would she keep it in there?
What if the garment bag was there already? She tried to throw it out, and this is literally obviously a stretch, but what if it was there? She tried to throw it out, noticed that there was something in there, opened it, saw there was a dead body, and was like, fuck that, I am not dealing with this, and left it there.
I wouldn't want to leave a dead body there.
Sounds ridiculous, but at the same time,
it's ridiculous. But that doesn't mean there's.
It's the same. At the same time, that is kind of plausible because, what they were saying in the documentary, you have a drag queen with a dead body in a suitcase. How are you going to explain that to cops? Oh, this was there when I moved in. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, put your hands behind your back, type of shit.
Yeah.
So she would have to move the garment bag herself and put it in her new apartment because she's only been there for 5 years.
Maybe she forgot it was there, and when she moved, she was like, "Oh, got to take this garment bag."
You don't forget a dead body in a Go-Gurt container is in your apartment, dude.
I'm just saying,
a Go-Gurt tube, John.
But it's also interesting that she let friends come over. She never mentioned it. Even on her deathbed, she didn't mention it, as just FYI.
Can you throw out that bag that's in the corner? Don't open it. Just throw it out. No questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Or maybe it wasn't hers. Like maybe it was one of her friends.
No, I think it was hers.
Well, hear me out. What if it was one of her friends that knew she was passing away and knew she wouldn't be going into her closet and put the garment bag in the closet, and maybe that's that. You don't know.
One of the big reasons we don't know is because, all right, think about it. Where did the police go? They go to ask all these people in drag and the friends who do drag shows. Do you really think they want to give any information? Okay? Because they don't want to be linked to that at all.
Yeah.
I didn't really go into the time period, but the 90s it's not a good time period to be a drag queen, right? I mean, cops don't like that now. Why would they like that in 90s when everyone's getting shot?
Right.
I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far. But so no one really knows how this happened. They just know there's a bullet in his head, so he got shot. I mean, It could have been who knows? One friend said that he may have been someone that ran in and tried to rob, the house, and she shot him or something like that. Who knows? But the only good thing is they got the fingerprints, and now the family of the victim can actually know for sure that, the son is dead instead of always wondering. Like, now they got a resolution.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And instead of being buried in a potter's field, he was buried in a real cemetery.
True.
Right? So if you enjoyed this episode, be sure to hit that subscribe button on whatever podcasting app you use. If you like this story, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. If you're absolutely obsessed with this podcast and want to become our drag queen, go to talkmurder.com/join, become a Taco Supremo, get a badass t-shirt, sticker, swag, a lot of love, shout it out all over the place. Tell me what story you want me to do. I'll research it dedicated to you on Talk Murder Me podcast. My name is John, here with Jen and Nicole. And until next time,
sashay away.
Who's texting,
Taylor?
Jen? We need to turn them phones off. We got to get through this.
I'll put it in a different room.
Okay. Don't look at the screens. Wait for Jen. I'm watching you, Jen. Don't look at the screens. I'm going to see if you do. Okay, you want to follow me? Put it in the bathroom. You looked at it. I know you did.
Which is stupid.
That sounds stupid.
We don't need another top 40 pop station. Bring back my oldies. Now all we have is Cool 102.
You got your vinyl player in there, Jen.
Yeah, but like when I'm home in Massachusetts, like I don't have my vinyl player with me. I only
you
have
can
the radio.
bring the vinyl with you on your trip to Myrtle Beach.
It's called iTunes. There's this thing now.
Jen, you don't have a vinyl player in your car? You can listen to it when you're driving up there?
Your 8
wait,
tracks.
because that's really, what's the word? Inefficient. And most people just use MP3s.
I'm going to refrain from commenting, mostly because I can't think of anything good to say about.
Instead of having a 400-pound record player.
Not 400 pounds.
It's exaggerating.
It is with all the damn records in it.
Well, you know what? I'm proud of my vinyl
collection.
I'm proud of my vinyl collection, and I need to expand it.
Okay, so tonight...
Like my candles.
Tonight we're...
My first CD was Spice Girls. La 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 la.
So today I was actually talking about Spice World.
We
and
got to
the
go.
We're going to go. Don't worry. Let me finish this story. Today I was talking about Spice World and the cinematic masterpiece that it is and how it's so underrated.
Excellent, yes.
So I'm actually now lending out my DVD to multiple people because they are not educated on the
They've never
beauty
seen it?
that is Spice World. No, most of these children are like born in the 2000s.
Do they even know who the Spice Girls are?
Some of them do actually. I'm
you're
surprised.
lending them a DVD. So
You'll never get it back.
You're going to make them go buy a DVD player because no one uses those anymore.
Listen, it's either they use a DVD or they have to pay for it on Amazon
They use their
Prime.
PlayStations for it.